fellow paranormalers, and welcome to this channel. I try to change these a little bit, but I just find that time doesn't permit me to video in different situations. So I'm going to my fitness session and I've got a bit of time in order to do a video, so please bear with me. This is about egos, okay, and what happens to your ego when you take a back seat to what's going on in your life and what you're doing. It's something that you either realise when you're young, I believe, or you realise when something tragic happens to you. You have a bit of a downfall or a bit of a crisis moment, or you get to a point where you begin to realise that your ego is way too big, or that your ego is controlling what you're trying to achieve. Now, what has this got to do with paranormal? Well, it has actually quite a lot to do with paranormal. Now, I've touched on this before in other videos about how I just absolutely hate all these people that go out and spend a bucket load of money on a shed load of equipment, and then they get a hat printed and a t-shirt printed and a jacket emblazoned, and and then they go off with a big sticker on their car saying they're a paranormal ghost hunter or something, and they just quite clearly don't know what they're doing from the actual outset. They just think all you have to do is to switch on a few bits and pieces of equipment, and like, all due respect to these people, they've got guts to go out and do this stuff. They've got no protection, no method, no goal, no purpose. They just want to do it, and they go around prancing about with their blinking hair, and they're more interested in how they look on camera than actually what it is they're really doing. But to me, that just smacks of somebody who's got a massive ego, or a group of people that have all got together, because of course big egos attract big egos, and this is a group of people all kind of jostling around and elbowing other people out of the way so that their ego can shine a bit bigger than everyone else's. As soon as I start seeing any paranormal type related video on YouTube from anyone that I follow, or anyone that I start inquiring about or watching, and they're more interested, and I hate to say it, well, they're men are just as bad, but with women it's like they are constantly looking in a mirror. They're looking in their picture on the video camera and adjusting their hair and their lipstick, and they're making their boobs stand out more, or they're adjusting their clothes, and then they're back to their hair again, and then they're doing, and I mean, I'm just thinking, why are you even on camera? Why are you on camera? You're supposed to be delivering a message, or you're supposed to be, doing an investigation or something along those lines, and all I see is somebody who's self-obsessed, narcissistic, egomaniac that happens to be involved in the paranormal. And I just think it's a bit sad, really. And but it's not going to go away. I'm not griping, I'm not moaning. Well, I am kind of moaning about it because I just get sick and tired of it all the time. But in the end, what happens, of course, is that I just stop watching the videos. I just, or I either just stop watching the channel, because it just becomes really monotonous watching someone's ego on video all the time. So yeah, ego needs to go. So anyway, yeah, why was I making this? Sorry, I've kind of diverted a little bit. But yeah, ego. You see, the thing is, people don't realise is that sometimes your ego controls what you're doing, and it can overtake or take over the all good intentions and purposes that you had in the beginning. And a lot of people don't see it happening to themselves, I don't think, and that's what the problem is. People don't see it happening, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're kind of swept along this wave of ego-ness, and it's a shame. I think it is a real shame that tends to happen to people, and especially if people get, recognised, and they get mentioned on TV, and they get mentioned on local radio, and all of a sudden they're being interviewed, and then all of a sudden they've got a TV series, and it goes on from there, and it's just a constant cycle that people keep going around all the time, and then, then they have to live the lie, you see. This is the problem. They have to live the lie, and they have to make it bigger and more interesting and more viewers, and pressure is on them to do more things, and then they're losing their faith in what they believed in the beginning, and that's when things start going horribly wrong. That's why a lot of these shows, they start off with all the good intentions, and they get all of this, information and feedback and whatever, and then it just turns into a drama series. And and then things are being put into place on purpose, as has been highlighted recently on one of the UK shows. And I knew most of it was all fake anyway and put on, but now the fact is that people have actually been caught planting stuff and then making a big scene about it. And you just think, really? But because their ego is so big, they don't see it, you see. They're being caught up in this wave. They're blinded to what's actually really going on. They've lost sight of what it is they're supposed to be doing. And unfortunately, corruption comes into play, because the lie gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and when people start lying, they lie to themselves, and then they lie to other people, and it gets bigger. And because a lot of people altogether are all got big egos, they all start lying, and then the lie gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it just gets blown out of all proportion, and then of course it just collapses. There are ways. There's loads of ways that people can get rid of their ego. Getting rid of your ego leads to enlightenment, and it leads to a whole different world where nothing is actually really that important, because everything is important, if that makes any sense. You begin to realise that you're insignificant as a person, as a human being, or as a physical entity in this particular plane. You then begin to realise that, I'm looking at a bin in front of me. That bin is almost as important as I am. And that bin may last longer than me. That bin's still going to be around. That bin could be there for another 100 to 200 years. And I'm going to be long gone. So when you start looking at things in that kind of perspective, you then start to realise that you're not the most important thing around. Other things are more important. People who focus on money or possessions or, worldly things. Everything to them is their job and earning money and getting a bigger car and getting a bigger house and wearing nicer clothes and wearing more expensive shoes, or do you know what I mean? Or they have to increase their social life, and that becomes the focus of their life. And what they don't realise is that they're actually blowing up their ego more and more and more and more and more all the time. They're becoming so self-important that nothing else really matters. And I see, not just because I'm a psychologist, but I see the ego in others. I mean, when you're in psychology, parapsychology, whatever it is, you see it all the time, and I see it in the paranormal world quite a lot. And I know other people, other fellow paranormalists see it as well, and it drives them up the wall, and it drives me up the wall, because they're giving the whole paranormal genre a kind of a bad name. It doesn't last very long, but it is a shame. It is a shame. People do really need to realise that what actually matters is what it is they're doing, the effect that it's having on other people, the effect What is it? That they're not more important than the spirits that are out there. The spirits are there. They're going to be around forever. The energy is going to be around forever. That bin is going to be around a lot longer than me, potentially. Or another bin is going to be around a lot longer than me. So my ego actually doesn't really matter. And you do realise, I realised at a very early age that I needed to get rid of, an ego. And when you get rid of your ego, you then begin to realise that, you become more focused on other people and what it is they're doing. So hopefully that's made sense. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Leave comments down below, and I shall see you again soon.